Hello, my name is Alan Madison and I'm an architect with the Office 365 Center of Excellence. Today's session, upgrading to Skype for Business Server 2015. It's important to remember that features and functionality change over time. Microsoft is committed to continually improving Skype for Business, and as such, features and functionality will be added. By the time you watch this training, new features may well have been added. However, we are committed to ensuring that you have access to the most recent training that is current and relevant, so for major updates we will release new training. However, to be sure that you are watching the most recent version of this training, please visit skypeoperationsframework.com/academy. During this session, we're going to discuss at a high level the supported scenarios and client considerations for a migration to Skype for Business Server 2015. We'll then take a more detailed look at the in-place upgrade option, followed by an overview of the side-by-side migration option, and finally we'll take a look at migrating from SQL Server Mirroring to SQL Server AlwaysOn availability groups. Upgrading to Skype for Business Server 2015. It is important to note that Skype for Business Server 2015 supports the same hardware as Lync Server 2013, and that there are two supported migration options, the first side-by-side migration and the second in-place migration. Which option you select will be dependent upon your existing environment. If you currently have Lync Server 2013, then the recommended approach is to use the in-place migration option. However, if you select this route, you must ensure that at a minimum you have applied Cumulative Update 5, released in August 2014, before beginning the migration process. If you wish to replace Lync Server 2013 server hardware, you may also use the side-by-side migration option. If your current environment is Lync Server 2010, there is no support for in-place upgrade. You must use side-by-side migration. And finally, please note that try-existence is not supported. Try-existence is any environment in which Lync Server 2010, Lync Server 2013, and Skype for Business Server 2015 are deployed. You must consolidate to a single version before beginning the migration process. If you currently have Lync Server 2010 and Lync Server 2013 in your environment and you attempt to integrate Skype for Business Server 2015, Topology Builder will actually warn you that this is an unsupported scenario. You must consolidate to Lync Server 2013 to be able to take advantage of the in-place upgrade option. So what are the consolidation steps you need to take if you do have a mixed environment? Step 1, you add a new Lync Server 2013 pool to your environment. Step 2, you move all of the users from your Lync Server 2010 pool to the new Lync Server 2013 pool. Step 3, you decommission the old Lync Server 2010 pool. And at this point, you've consolidated your environment and you're ready to migrate to Skype for Business Server 2015. Skype for Business Server 2015 in-place upgrade. The in-place upgrade option allows you to move directly from Lync Server 2013 to Skype for Business Server 2015 using existing hardware. There are 4 main benefits to using this approach. Firstly, you preserve existing server investments. Secondly, no network changes are required. Thirdly, the upgrade process does not require extensive planning. And finally, the overall cost for deployment is reduced. There are actually 2 methods of an in-place upgrade: the online mode, in which users are moved during the upgrade to ensure there is no service downtime, and the offline mode, in which there is service downtime because users are not moved. When considering the in-place upgrade method, there are several recommendations to be noted. You should not use pool failover during the upgrade process. Do not start services before all servers in a pool have been upgraded. Do not unpair pools before the upgrade, and ensure minimal time when the pools are paired with different versions of Lync Server or Skype for Business Server 2015. In addition, when upgrading, you must upgrade from the inside to the outside. Start with your front end user pools first and then move out towards your edge server pools. So which server roles are supported for an in-place upgrade? As you can see from the following slide, all of the core server roles are supported for in-place upgrade, including front-end pools, mediation pools, and edge pools. It's also worth noting that the SQL Server backend stores also support in-place upgrade. Also of note is the fact that survivable branch servers and survivable branch appliances do not support in-place upgrade. Let's take a look at the online mode in-place upgrade steps. Step 1. Move all Pool 1 users to Pool 2. Step 2. Begin the in-place upgrade to Skype for Business Server 2015. Step 3. Once the upgrade process is completed, test and verify. Step 4. Move all Pool 1 users back to Pool 1. Step 5. Move all Pool users to Pool 1. Step 6. Begin the in-place upgrade process on Pool 2. Step 7, once the upgrade process is completed, test and verify. And finally, Step 8, move all users back to Pool 2. In-place upgrade step by step. In order to successfully complete an in-place upgrade to Skype for Business Server 2015, you must complete the following 5 steps. Step 1, install prerequisites. Step 2, upgrade and publish topology using Topology Builder. Step 3, stop the services on all the servers in the pool being upgraded. Step 4, run setup.exe to upgrade the server. Step 5, start services on all the servers in the upgraded pool. Step 1, install prerequisites. As discussed earlier, you must install at a minimum Cumulative Update 5 released in August 2014. We always recommend installing the latest cumulative update available. You must have at least SQL Server 2012 Service Pack 1 installed. Again, we recommend installing the latest Service Pack available. In addition, there are some hotfixes which need to be applied that are shown on the screen. Step 2. Upgrade and publish topology using Topology Builder. Please note that you cannot use Lync Topology Builder. You must use Skype for Business Topology Builder. Once you have installed the Skype for Business Topology Builder, you can select your Lync Server 2013 pool and choose the option Upgrade to Skype for Business Server 2015. Topology Builder will prompt you to confirm your selection. When you publish the topology, you will be asked to confirm the databases that will be upgraded as part of the in-place upgrade process. Once the topology has been published, please ensure that you read the to-do list in the text file. Step 3. Stop the services on all the servers in the pool being upgraded. As shown on the screen, you can use the commandlet stop-cs Windows service in order to do this. Step 4. Run setup.exe to upgrade the server. Setup.exe will download the latest updates from the internet and as such will require internet connectivity. The verification process for upgrade readiness may fail for a number of reasons. One of the most common is the requirement to download updates. Failing to stop all services on all servers to be upgraded is another common cause of the upgrade readiness verification process to fail. Failing to close all PowerShell console windows will also result in a failure in the upgrade process as shown on the screen. Once setup.exe has successfully completed all of the verification processes, you will be notified that the upgrade is complete. Step 5. Start services on all the servers in the upgraded pool using the start-cs pool commandlet. Skype for Business Server 2015 side-by-side migration. Side-by-side migration will already be familiar to many of you, as it is very similar to the migration process from Lync Server 2010 to Lync Server 2013. At a high level, the steps are very simple. You build a new pool, you move users to the new pool, you decommission the old pool. One important point to note is that if you have an existing Lync Server 2013 environment, you must ensure that the connection points for the OAuth configuration are moved from the old servers to the new servers prior to the decommissioning of the old servers. To modify the OAuth configuration, you would use the Configure Enterprise Partner Application PowerShell script. So let's take a look at those migration steps in a little bit more detail. Step 1. You've acquired the new hardware and you introduce a new Skype for Business server pool into your topology. Step 2. You move all the users from the Lync Server 2010 pool to the new Skype for Business server pool. Step 3. You decommission the old Lync Server 2010 pool. At this point, you've upgraded your environment to Skype for Business Server 2015. SQL Server AlwaysOn availability groups. When completing the upgrade process from SQL Server Mirroring to SQL Server AlwaysOn availability groups, it is important to note the following. AlwaysOn availability groups require either SQL Server 2012 SP1 Enterprise Edition or SQL Server 2014 Enterprise Edition. In-place upgrade from SQL Server 2012 SP1 standalone to SQL Server 2014 availability groups is fully supported, as is the in-place upgrade from SQL Server 2012 SP1 mirroring to SQL Server 2014 availability groups. All other in-place upgrade scenarios for SQL servers are currently unsupported. Please remember to take a full database backup prior to the in-place upgrade process beginning. It's also important to remember to change compatibility level for each database after the upgrade using the transact SQL shown on the screen currently. The following table shows which versions of SQL Server High Availability are supported with which versions of Lync Server or Skype for Business Server. It's important to note that SQL Server Enterprise Edition is required for always-on availability groups. In order to successfully complete the migration process from SQL Server Mirroring to SQL Server AlwaysOn availability groups, you must complete the following 7 steps. Step 1. Failover all databases to the primary SQL server. Step 2. Uninstall each database type and drop databases on the mirror server. Step 3. Disable database mirroring and publish the topology. Step 4. Enable always-on availability groups. Step 5. Create always-on availability groups for the existing back-end databases. Step 6. Add a new SQL store using the FQDN of the availability group listener. And finally, Step 7. Associate the pool with the new SQL store and publish the topology. Step 1. Failover all databases to the primary SQL server if needed. Verify databases are not failed over using the get-cs database mirror state command. All databases should be on the primary server. Use the invoke-cs database failover commandlet in order to fail back databases. Step 2. Uninstall each database type and drop databases on the mirror server. Deprecate the mirror databases using the uninstall-cs mirror database commandlet for each database type. Run get-cs database mirror state and verify that the state on mirror value is database unavailable. Please note that you should verify the mirror server using SQL Server Management Studio. Manually delete any databases that could not be dropped by the uninstall-cs mirror database commandlet. Step 3. Disable database mirroring and publish the topology. In Topology Builder, open the properties of the pool, deselect the Enable SQL Store Server Mirroring option, and then publish the topology. Step 4. Enable always-on availability groups. Add the Windows Server Failover cluster feature to each SQL node. Validate the cluster configuration. Create a new Windows Server Failover cluster. Configure cluster quorum settings. Enable always-on groups. Installing the Windows Server Failover clustering feature. Windows Failover clustering is a built-in Windows Server feature and is installed through the Add Roles and Features capability of Windows Server. Please note that cluster nodes cannot be Active Directory domain controllers. Cluster nodes must be from the same Active Directory domain. Cluster nodes must be connected on the same network subnet. Validating the cluster configuration. Add the servers that will be part of the cluster. Each server that is added will be verified and tested as part of the cluster. Once the cluster nodes have been validated, you must ensure that you select Create a Cluster Now using the Validated Nodes option, and then press the Finish button. When creating the cluster, you must define an administrative cluster name. This name is for cluster administration only. It is not used in the Skype for Business topology at all. DNS registration will be automated for the IP address that you assign. Please make sure to uncheck Add all eligible storage to the cluster. AlwaysOn availability groups do not require or utilize shared storage. Please ensure that you view the cluster creation report once the process has completed. As you complete the Configure Cluster Quorum wizard, please note the following. A 2-node cluster requires a witness for a majority vote. The quorum should not be defined on either of the nodes. Skype for Business uses a file share witness, and this file share should be accessible from both nodes. AlwaysOn availability groups have to be enabled manually. Using SQL Server Configuration Manager, select the properties of the SQL Server cluster that you created earlier. Select the AlwaysOn High Availability tab and ensure that the checkbox Enable AlwaysOn Availability Groups has been selected. A restart of the SQL instance is required. Step 5. Create AlwaysOn Availability Group for the existing backend databases. Verify the recovery model for each database is set to full. Change to full if currently set as simple. Perform a SQL backup of each database. Create the new availability group and add the existing backend databases. Step 6. Add the new SQL store using the FQDN of the availability group listener. In Topology Builder, create the new SQL Server store, add the FQDN of the availability group listener as the SQL Server FQDN, select high availability settings and choose SQL AlwaysOn availability groups. Add the FQDN of the availability group listener as the FQDN for the SQL AlwaysOn instance. Step 7. Associate the pool with the new SQL store and publish a topology. Change the SQL Server store association for the pool to the new AlwaysOn SQL store and then publish the topology. AlwaysOn availability groups known issues. It is important to note that we include these known issues for information purposes only. Not all migration projects will encounter these issues. Issue 1. Clients go into resiliency mode after failover. The cause of this particular issue is related to the availability group wizard not replicating SQL logins from the primary node to each of the defined secondary replicas. The solution is as follows. 1. Launch Topology Builder and download the topology. 2. Verify the SQL machine FQDN value is set to the availability group listener FQDN. If not, change and then republish the topology. 3. Use SQL Management Studio to failover the availability group listener cluster resource to one of the replica servers. 4. Create the missing SQL logins on the replica using PowerShell. Install -cs database command as shown on the screen. Repeat steps 3 and 4 for each additional replica server. Issue 2. CMS blocks upgrade to AlwaysOn. If the CMS database is homed on or paired with a pool where you are attempting to move to AlwaysOn availability groups, you will be unable to change the high availability model for the backend database. The solution to this issue is as follows. If the pool is not paired, move the CMS database to another pool using the move-cs management server commandlet. If the pool is paired and the CMS is not home locally on the pool where you are attempting to change the backend high availability model, use the following steps. 1. Disable pool pairing and uninstall the CMS database. 2. Change the high availability model from SQL mirroring to availability groups. 3. Reinstall the CMS database and re-enable pool pairing. 4. Add the CMS databases to the availability group. Issue 3. Cannot create listener connection failure. For named instances, SQL Server listens for connections on a dynamic TCP port. Some admins may wish to configure SQL to listen on either the default port, TCP 1433, or use a SQL alias to configure SQL to listen on a non-default static port, for example 1499. If you configure your SQL service to listen on the default port, you will encounter an error when attempting to create the availability group listener for SQL AlwaysOn due to a port conflict. The solution to this issue is as follows. 1. Use a SQL alias to configure SQL to listen on a non-default static port, for example 1499, if default port 1433 is already in use. 2. Verify that exceptions have been added in Windows Firewall for the port used by the availability group listener. Issue 4. Create single replica availability group. For test environments, you may want to create an availability group with only a single replica. If you attempt to use SQL Management Studio to do this, you will be blocked as it requires a minimum of 2 replicas. However, you can use PowerShell to work around this limitation. The specific commandlets for this process are shown in the following screen. The following are a list of key learnings that you should take away from this session. Try existence is not supported. If your environment consists of Lync Server 2010 and Lync Server 2013, you should consolidate to one version. In-place upgrade is the preferred approach to upgrading to Skype for Business Server 2015. If you need to replace hardware, you should use the side-by-side migration method. Migrating to SQL Server AlwaysOn availability groups is recommended. Shown on the screen are additional resources you may want to refer to as you go through the upgrade process. If you want to chat with your peers, ask questions, or just want to provide some feedback, you can always leverage the Skype Operations Framework community.